Hi everyone, so I'm Joseph. Welcome to part 7 of chapter 1 of Digimon Seekers Eiji Wolf of the Ninth Avenue. So as always, we begin with a summary, then move on with the analysis. So part 7 begins with an explanation that Eiji is arriving to the Aberdeen Electronics and Durnrin District Digital Lab. And he's here because apparently he got a message from the professor. Eiji right away goes to the professor's office and he screams, "Professor, Professor, Professor." And the professor comes on out saying good morning despite it being the afternoon. Eiji gets the impression that the professor does this often, that he says good morning despite it not being the morning. It's explained, or rather, Eiji asks, "What's with this Digimon?" And he shows Logomon, who's currently napping in his linker strap. Excuse me, my cat has arrived. At this point, evolution is once again reaffirmed. So in the previous chapter, it's explained that Digimon have different evolutionary stages, and in this part, it's just reestablished. So once again, the Digimon begin at the baby form, baby 1, baby 2, child, adult, perfect, and then ultimate. Academics are choosing to use the term evolution since that best represents the fact that these Digimon, when they transform, they're evolving. So the term evolution is used. Really quickly, side note of one is used to the dub terms. It is known as Digivolution, and that's actually Rookie, Champion, Ultimate, then Perfect, and what's before Rookie? Oh my goodness, I forgot the baby form. Oh well, but again, I'm going to be focusing on the sub terms. In training 2, child, adult, perfect, and then ultimate. So continuing on, let me pick up where I left off in my notes. The professor explains that if Eiji is able to make Logomon go to his ultimate evolution, the highest level of evolution, that he'll get extra money. And Eiji gets excited. He thinks to himself, "Oh, an incentive, extra cash for doing extra work," and he seems excited to go ahead and accomplish that. The professor at this point, so we start getting some bit more characterization of the professor. He cheers and encourages Eiji on, but surprisingly, Eiji actually states, "Professor, you shouldn't be encouraging, or you shouldn't be hoping for more chaos, encouraging for there to be more chaos." So that's pretty a cool detail. We'll discuss that during the analytical portion though. Eiji actually disapproves of the professor cheering Eiji on. Actually, really quickly, let's just go ahead and read that portion verbatim. Ruzinji cheered Eiji on an easy to understand way. In an easy to understand way. Don't say that. Don't be a bad adult that looks forward to chaos. So that's a pretty interesting statement to make to the professor. And at this point, Eiji asks, "Did you not see the video that I sent you yesterday?" And the professor responds saying that he gets a lot of emails. He's an important individual. And Eiji understands, "Oh, if you look at all your emails, you'll probably fall behind your work." Despite this, though, the professor does state, "You're my business partner. When I get emails from you, I make sure that I do view them." Despite that, I suppose the professor missed Eiji's most recent email, and so they make the choice to go ahead and watch that together. Give me a quick second, let me catch up with my notes. Alright, yep, so I'm exactly where I want to be. So again, the professor calls Eiji an important business partner. Eiji plays in the video that's from yesterday within the Seekers world. So the video that's being shown to Professor Ruzinji, the contents occurred the day before. And within the video, essentially, it shows Logomon eating. There's 4 bowls of food, 4 plates of food, and only Logomon is eating. And they seem to be in a virtual cage. And in the corner, there's a multi-layered house. And the Pteranodon, the other 3 Pteranodon, they're actually inside the house. It's stated that it's wobbling, so I'm going to assume that they're actually quivering or shaking within the multi-layered house. And what is this implied? So it's explained that Logomon is actually the alpha pack, or the alpha dog of this little pack. The Pteranodon are essentially letting Logomon eat his food. Then after he's done eating, the Pteranodon will go ahead and come out and eat as well. The professor is really impressed and intrigued by this behavior. He explains that Logomon is less a dog and more akin to a wolf, or more akin to a tamed wolf from the past. The professor asks Eiji to hollow eyes Logomon, and Eiji goes ahead and does so. And it's stated that Logomon is about the size of a husky or the size of a small wolf. Before we continue, Eiji explains that before it was established that Logomon was the alpha pack dog, or the alpha leader, I guess, he actually tried to eat one of the Pteranodon. So that's a pretty comical detail to include. But thankfully, it was already established, or rather, it was established that Logomon is the leader of this pack, and so he gets to eat first, and thus that Tyrannomon is a-okay. Probably a little bit shaken, but I'd rather be left alive than killed off, right? Excuse me, let me go back to my notes. So at this point, Eiji explains, actually, I went ahead a little bit before Eiji hollow-eyes Logomon. Eiji tells the professor, Logomon is just too much. He eats a lot, he costs a lot, and he poops a lot. So really quickly, quick tangent. Again, I can't help but Bandai Namco is being meta at this aspect, a reference to the Digital V pets. We'll discuss that during the analytical portion, though. Oops, excuse me, my cat's walking in front of my notes. After Eiji states that Logomon is eating, costing, and pooping too much, the professor asks him, it seems that the professor is unfazed by these details, and he asks Eiji, is that a problem? And for Eiji, he recognizes that for the professor, these are just details for the professor. These are just details that's going to help to come to the conclusion. Thus, for the professor, it's not a big issue. Oh, he's eating too much, he's costing too much, he's pooping too much. That's just steps to get to the conclusion that I'm searching for. And after this, Eiji actually decides to, instead of going forward by saying, well, the resources are just too much, Eiji explains, well, we're getting benchmark data. And then at this point, that's when the professor asks the Eiji to hollow-eyes Logomon. Excuse me, everyone. I can't read my own writing, unfortunately, sometimes. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just skip that line. The professor asks Eiji how is Logomon as an AI tool. And Eiji explains he doesn't really know because it's too risky to use Logomon as an AI tool. The reason being because Logomon will not listen to Eiji. He kind of does what he wants, and Eiji is actually, he states to the professor that he's reminded of a former dog he used to have who would go on his walks when he wanted to go on his own walk. So again, Logomon showing that he seems to be very independent and wants to be the leader type. We'll see how that's going to work with Eiji. Despite this, though, the professor gets really excited. Excuse me, everyone, to make sure I'm not too... So explain he won't listen. Despite this, though, the professor asks, is this too much for you? And Eiji becomes reaffirmed and says, no, I could do this. I could make Logomon evolve. I'm the perfect one for the job. That's when Eiji hollow-eyes Logomon. And it's explained that Logomon's the size of a small dog, or pardon me, the size of a husky or a small wolf. And that's when it's also highlighted that Logomon's DS4 value is quite high. Eiji is confused about this information, and the professor explains that essentially this implies that the capacity for Logomon to evolve to ultimate level is present, it's there. And Eiji asks, does this mean that we could evolve right now? And the professor responds, no. D4 only indicates the capacity, the potential to evolve. So it's true, Logomon can evolve, but although Logomon can evolve, the process of getting him to evolve, that's what Eiji still needs to figure out. So it's nice to know. Oh, and also stated that the professor explains that he's happy that he gave the linkage strap to Eiji because it's the highest values that he's ever seen. And excuse me, everyone. Let me quickly look at my notes. Pardon me, everyone. I unfortunately. Excuse me, everyone. This is a bit embarrassing. I can't read my writing for the second to last, but we're almost done. So let me just quickly go down. Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Okay, pardon me. I know what my note was saying. I misspelled Tyrannomon. The way my writing was spelled, I couldn't recognize Tyrannomon. So Eiji explains, or rather, he thinks to himself that when it comes to code crackers, they typically use Digimon that are popular. So that's typically Digimon like Tyrannomon. And the reason, so even though Eiji has experience utilizing Tyrannomon, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's an expert with breeding or raising Digimon, because since everyone uses these popular Digimon, that means that common questions gets asked, and essentially, I would argue that it's kind of like a facts page, frequently asked questions. If one is confused about what to do with the Tyrannomon, they could just go to the facts, and lo and behold, because someone has asked it before, the information or the answer will be there for them. No, so that's Eiji just explains that he picks up his Digimon from Grimm. So Logomon's different in that regard. Eiji also asks the professor about the faceplate that's on Logomon. There seems to be a little plate with a diamond in the middle of his forehead that goes up to his nose, and the professor compliments Eiji, saying that's good for you for recognizing, or well, just for recognizing the faceplate. And yeah, at this point, EG states, let me just go to the bottom because I think it's just going to become tradition. I'm just going to read the ending verbatim because we're almost done anyways. Um, EG explains that picking up Digimon from Grimm is still slightly illegal. The professor explains there's some countries where it is legal, and EG states there are no borders in the digital world. EG, do you know who you're quoting? Rizionji asks the question. I'm going to skip ahead down to the bottom. EG states no. He shrugs his shoulders, just knows that it's a quote. And then the professor asks, "What's your work again, EG?" "I'm a code cracker." "Do you know the code cracking team, don't you?" And that's where it ends. So obviously, with the next part, I would say that we're going to get more information about the code cracking team. In fact, we might also get another page break, another perspective, the way that we got with part 5, I believe that it was with Satsuki and Judge. And we might not get an explanation of the code cracking team, but actually go to members of the code cracking team to get an idea of what the code cracking team does, their purpose, and what role they're going to serve in the story. Honestly, if the movie switches away from EG, I wouldn't mind too much. Again, the way that they're doing it so far, I think it's really a fun way to set up world building and doing it in such a way that it's keeping the audiences focused on the story. Give me a quick second, everyone. Let me just, my hair is curling up a little bit. Let me just pat it down a bit. All right, so now that we've done the summary, let's go ahead and move on to the analysis. So let me turn my book around, not my book, my notebook. So let's go ahead and focus on the fact that the professor is cheering EG on. So when the professor first gave the linker strap to EG, I'm sorry everyone, let me just that aspect of my hair. All right, well, or how embarrassing. Now I have video documentation of me fussing about with my hair. So I do thank you for your patience though. So going on, when the professor first gave the linker strap to EG, I did state that although I do still feel pretty positive about the professor's character, I was starting to feel a little bit apprehensive just because he's very friendly. But is there a reason to why he's very friendly? Is he actually having ulterior motives? And now I'm kind of getting that feeling reinformed with this part. The professor cheers EG on, and even EG has to step back a little bit and tell him, "Whoa, you're an adult. You shouldn't be hoping for this kind of chaos to occur." And for this is characterization to essentially let us know that the professor, he might just be the type of person. He might not be a bad. He might not be a quote unquote textbook bad person, but what's going on is the fact that he's a researcher. He's a little bit more amoral. He doesn't mind dabbling in the gray area. And the fact that he's working with the code cracker, I think, supports that fact, right? So we'll see where this goes forward from here. I don't think the professor is going to be a antagonist or an obstacle for EG. He truly does seem to be interested in the digital world and interested to see what Logomon's going to be doing with EG. But I think it's quite clear that the professor's letting he knows more than he's letting on to EG, and I think there's a specific purpose as to why he wants EG to be working with Logomon. And with that being said, the fact. So is he a little bit manipulative when he tells EG that you're my business partner? I don't really look at my emails. When I see emails from you, I have a tendency to check them out, the I being the professor. Is that really true? Because EG did send an email to the professor the previous day, yet the professor hasn't viewed it yet. We could go ahead and give the professor the benefit of the doubt and assume, well, it was barely the day before. He is an academic. He conducts research meetings, conducting research experiments and so forth. Maybe he just didn't have the time to view the video yet. He would have viewed it at the end of the day. But again, the professor kind of implies that as when he gets something from EG, he views it right away. But that wasn't the case here. Give me a quick second. Let me look at the fact that he says good morning, even though it's the afternoon, and EG thinks to himself, he gets the impression that the professor does this quite often. And again, really shows us that EG is an astute individual. He seems to pick up on observational details. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit right here, and just sorry everyone, my nose was itching, and just for textual evidence for that. when Eiji states that Logomon is costing too much, pooping too much, and eating too much, and the professor seems unfazed by that, Eiji realizes that he can't continue that line of conversation because the professor is just not going to be able to empathize with Eiji. Again, just being because for the professor, those are just details to come to the conclusion of what he's looking for. So I think that's why Eiji purposely shifts gear and states, well, I'm getting benchmark data. And after he states that, the professor's demeanor changes a little bit. I would like to believe, again, I would need to view the original translation, but I would like to think that that's what's going on right there. And yeah, that is what's going on right there. That's again textual evidence to suggest that Eiji is not only a determined individual, but he also is an astute. He also is an astute individual. He picks up on details that's going on around him, not just contextual details, but details from people as well. And then to continue to throw on the topic of Eiji, to continue as further textual evidence to highlight Eiji's determination, the fact that after the professor asks him, "Is this too much for you?" Although one could argue that Eiji gets defensive, he doesn't start. While he does get defensive, I believe he gets defensive because he knows that he can't do it. He can't do this project. He has the capacity to complete and fulfill what the professor is asking of him. I do like that a lot. If Eiji felt like he couldn't do this, he is coming to the professor with some issues already, right? This is costing a lot of resources. But again, Eiji's recognizing that despite the opportunity cost, it is costing me a lot currently, right now, in the present time, and the end run, he believes that it's going to be worth it. It's going to be beneficial. So again, more textual evidence to highlight Eiji's determination and just his astuteness as well. Excuse me, everyone. I'm looking at my work email. I'm sorry. Not my work email. That's my note right here. I'm looking at my notes. The fact that he calls Eiji a business partner too, I do believe. Oh, let me use my words. The fact that the professor calls Eiji a business partner, I think that's very telling of the professor's personality. Again, I don't think he's a bad individual, but obviously he's willing to use people to help him obtain what he wants. But it's looking like the research, what he wants is research on the digital world, and I would argue that's a positive thing, hopefully. At worst, it's a neutral thing because while the professor is trying to do is to learn about the digital world, but again, it's the fact that he has no qualms about using people, quote unquote, using people. That tells us a little bit something about the professor, but I don't think we should use that to condemn him just yet. We need to see where the story is going with this first. So the fact that the D4 potential is so high, again, I don't think it's an accident that the professor chose to work with Eiji. I kind of get the impression that the professor has worked with multiple code crackers in the past, and for whatever reason, Eiji has just past certain parameters has allowed him to continue working with the professor. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe Eiji's the first code cracker that the professor's working with, and it just turns out that the professor got lucky, and Eiji's just such a successful code cracker that the professor never needed to work with anyone else. But the fact that the DS4 values are so high, I do believe that the professor was not unaware about that, and he's just excited to see confirmation of what he believed. So what does it mean that the D4 values are so high? I do believe that obviously means that's going to help Eiji to break the yoke. It has that's letting us know that that Eiji has a capacity to develop a very strong personal relationship with Logomon. What this means, though, again, we're going to have to go ahead and wait and find out. Typically, in the past with Digimon properties, it usually pertains to some emotional capacity, the idea of friendship, the idea of responsibility. And so forth. I'm just thinking about the crests from the first adventure, but I'm drawing blanks on the rest of them, unfortunately. Love, the crest of love. Well, you guys know what I mean, right? Typically, there's a reason for why these partners are able to work so well with their digital partners. Let me start over. There's a reason why these humans are able to work so well with their digital partners. In this instance, with Digimon Seekers, it's looking like maybe it's less the emotional capacity and more this DS4 value. Or maybe there's a relationship between the two, right? Maybe the more emotionally connected you are with one's digital partner, the higher the DS4 value becomes, right? Since Eiji has first gotten Logomon, we've seen that he's been very attached to Logomon. He really wants to impress the professor. He really wants to get to know Logomon, or rather maybe not to get to know Logomon. I think eventually he wants to know Logomon as an individual, but right now he wants to comprehend Logomon so that he can fulfill what's being asked of him. Um, so the last thing I want to focus on, so there is a quote that the professor asks Eiji, do you know where this is coming from? And in fact, I do have multiple pages open. I have that quote right here as well. There are no borders in the digital world. So I did do some light research. I believe that quote is coming from an individual, an Egyptian industrial designer known as Kareem Rashed. If I mispronounced that, forgive me. But the original quote is as follows: "There are no boundaries or borders in the digital age." I'm just sharing this information. I thought maybe at first this individual was being quoted was some kind of researcher in technology, computer science, coding, or something like that. But the fact that he's a industrial designer. Actually, now I just realized I'm being judgmental. When I saw the word designer, I automatically assumed like fashion designer. But now I'm just realizing that that also can refer to um, okay, so he's an industrial designer, interior architect. Okay. Again, I don't see how that really pertains to Digimon Seekers, but obviously maybe they're just focusing on the quote itself superficially. Because I would argue the quote itself, there are no boundaries or borders in the digital age. That definitely does pertain to why Eiji said that about the digital world, because despite the digital world having no national power related to it specifically, everyone around the world can utilize it. And as we saw in part 6 or part 5, despite the digital world being nationless, if you're from a nation, that nation's law enforcement is still going to come after you. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And also, give me a quick second. There was a couple more quotes that I wanted to read verbatim. So when the professor states, give me a second, everyone. There's 2 more quotes. Let me go to. I want to read them in order though. All right, so this one's more general, and I'll go with this next quote right here. So the professor states, "Oh, well, that's very interesting. Just like the mythical demon wolf that eats even giant gods." So that's a reference to when Eiji explains that Logomon at first wanted to eat one of the Tyrannomon. I just wanted to read that quote because I think it's further foreshadowing for Logomon's personality. Just like the mythical demon wolf that eats even giant gods. I do know in Japanese culture, the word demon may not constitute something bad or something toxic. So maybe in this instance, when he's used the mythical demon wolf that eats even giant gods, are referring to characterization of Logomon. Demon wolf. He's a wolf that's really independent, a wolf that focuses on his agency. But again, we'll see if that's a good or we'll see if that's a negative or positive thing as the story continues. But I just really like this quote. And the last quote that I really enjoyed was, "It may seem strange for an AI to eat, but food is in essence data and information. Even human beings do not grow in any way, and they did not read books, watch videos, and study to obtain information." I personally just really love this line. This line is just being mentioned because of the fact that the narrator is explaining, it may seem weird that Logomon is eating food, right? Logomon is a collection of data. It's an AI. Despite that, it's eating. So it's explained. It seems strange, yet even like people, if we don't consume knowledge, then we're not going to grow, right? More specifically, we're not going to grow. We don't read books, watch videos, and study to obtain information. I'm not gonna lie, I probably am projecting a little bit. I just really like that quote just because I feel like in today's time, a lot of individuals, they're kind of, well, reading is becoming not as common as it used to be. And even if I do believe that movies and TV shows, it's a form of literature because it stems from a script, right? It's a different form of literature. But even though I do have that mindset, I would still argue that a lot of in the same way that there's literature for analysis, there's also literature just for fun or just to consume for fun. That's the same way with TV and movies as well. There's films and TV shows that really emphasizes human elements, that really emphasizes themes that one could really digest. And but on the other hand, there's movies and TV shows where it's a little bit more superficial. Well, maybe not a little bit more, a lot more superficial than that. And it just depends on what one is consuming. And then, of course, that last portion, study to obtain information. Right now, there seems to be a pushback against formal education. But that's a different video. But again, if we live in a society that's not formally educated, I would argue that would mean that we're living in a society where individuals are not thinking about the community, rather just thinking about themselves, and that's really it. But again, that's for a different video. So I just really did like this quote. I liked it so much, I'm going to read it one more time. "It may seem strange for an AI to eat, but food is in essence data and information. Even human beings would not grow in any way if they did not read books, watch videos, and study to obtain information." So I think that's a great way to end this summary and analysis. Before I do though, really quickly, so today is Saturday. Part 8 will be coming out tomorrow. I'm unsure. Originally, I thought that the each Sunday would be coming out with a full chapter, but it's looking like we're getting parts of the chapter. So as I stated in my first video, my plans for Digimon Seekers, I'll be posting my summary and analysis on Mondays. So this means that tomorrow on Sunday, the only video that will be posted will be my brief review video, and then on Monday morning, either chapter 2 or part 8 of Eiji Wolf or the Ninth Avenue will be posted. If you're reading along with Digimon Seekers, please let me know what your thoughts and your opinions are. Let me know in the comments, or let me know via a personal message. I personally really am enjoying Digimon Seekers. I'm loving so far how they're setting up that it's possible that Eiji will be working alone. I'm loving the different world building elements that's cropping up. I'm loving the fact that they're going through. I really do believe that the next chapter, we're not going to focus on Eiji and the professor. I think we're going to switch over to the code cracking team. But maybe I'm being too excited about that. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see tomorrow. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Have a prodigious day and take care. And also, thanks everyone for your patience. My hair. I didn't put on my hair product today just because well, I'm not doing anything professional. That's why. So have a great day, guys, and take care.